Okay, so The Vampire Lestat episode 5 just came out, and oh my god, what an episode. This was like everything I've been missing from the show. Let's get into it. But before we do, two quick disclaimers. One, I have read the books, the first three: Interview with the Vampire Lestat, and Queen of the Damned. So, light spoilers for those ahead, major spoilers for the show. Like, obviously. Second disclaimer: if you or anyone you know works for AMC or the show in any capacity, just know I'm sorry for negative comments I might have made in the previous episodes. Um, it's not you, it's me. Please send me merch. Okay, let's get into it. So, Lestat and the band are recording the album, and one of the first things we find out is that Christine is no longer with us. I mean, she's still alive, but she's no longer with the band, which I am so mad about. Christine was one of my favorite characters they introduced. I thought she was funny. I'm also very mad that Gabriella is replacing Christine as Lestat's like tour manager, band manager, lawyer. I don't know. Momager, I guess now. Like I wanted to see more of Christine, not less. But also at the same time, like it makes sense that she left. Like, oh my god, I would have been so done after that. I'm assuming she came from like the corporate world. And yeah, it was already a lot to deal with. And then, the events of the last episode, the yeah, I would also be like, I quit. I'm done. I'm done. So I get where she's coming from. I get where the writers are coming from, but now it's Gabriella once again filling in the void, which I do think is interesting because I do think Christine was sort of filling that like mom shaped hole in Lestat's heart. She was more protective over him in episode 3 than Gabriella was. So I do think like as a fixer, she was very good. Lestat needed her. So now it's Gabriella taking on the role of like a Kris Jenner, like an evil Kris Jenner, or like an eviler Kris Jenner. Yeah, put like a clip of "In the Arms of the Angels" here. Christine, you will be missed. You brought so much to the show, and I'm very sad they are getting rid of you. We see the process of Lestat trying to create the album. Lestat's being his normal over the top self with the band, and the band is kind of like over Lestat's like theatrics and melodrama. And I get it. Like, well, I get both sides, right? Like, as a drummer, it's like, yeah, the drumsticks are only drumsticks. Like, they're not, like, I don't know what else you want from me. So I get where, like, TC is coming from. And Lestat is like, the drums need to sound like death and then life itself. And what's the quote? Like, your drum is my heart and your guitar is my hunger. And the band is just like, okay. And honestly, like that is kind of what being gay in a room full of like straight people feels like. But that is like the process of creating art. When you're making something and you have to kind of translate like what's going on in your mind, like how it sounds or how it looks in your mind into like something other people can understand. Like it does turn you into a crazy person. Like it makes you sound insane and pretentious. Like, the drums need to sound like life and death itself. But like there's no other way to sort of translate like what it sounds and looks like up here into the physical realm without relying on metaphor like that and without you know sounding like a crazy person, because the process of creating does turn you into a crazy person. So I think like all of that was really accurate to like the creative process. But also, again, I do understand where the band's coming from, where it's like, I don't know what to tell you. It's a guitar. This episode had some of the strongest songs of all of the episodes. I do like the song When I Call Out Your Name. I do think that is like one of the best songs they've released so far. Like that one really does it for me. And honestly, all the music is kind of how I feel about the show, where it's like some times it really hits and I'm like, oh, I love this. And then other times it's just like, it's okay. I really want to see the album like as a whole, just like I've been wanting to see it like the show as a whole before I like make a judgment on the music. I liked When I Call Out Your Name, the song that like we only got like snippets of. If you listen to it, I do think it's really good. The like screaming like Gabriella at the end reminded me of the famous scene in A Streetcar Named Desire where he's calling out Stella, Stella, Stella. You know the one. The show writers are big fans of Tennessee Williams. There's an amazing video essay linking the first two seasons with the Glass Menagerie. Link that video essay down below. I think it's phenomenal. I think everyone should watch it if you're a fan of the show and a fan of theater more generally, which you should be. Theater is amazing. Go support your local theater troupe. And we start getting flashbacks to Marius. Marius's character design is phenomenal. Like the fact that like his hair kind of looks like a Roman statue or like a Roman bust of like Caesar, I thought was great. Like the gray curls, like it feels very Roman, and which makes sense. Like he in the books he was from Rome when he got turned. So speaking of the books, I really, really, really hope they include how Marius got turned. Because that, I think, was one of the best scenes in The Vampire Lestat. Like, Anne Rice's version of The Wicker Man, like, come on. Amazing. Like, please, Roland, please show us this. Yeah, because it was so dark and so disturbing and like weird and the guy in the tree and everything. If you haven't read the books, like it sounds like I'm spouting off nonsense, but there is literally a scene in the books where it's like Anne Rice doing her own version of the Wicker Man. And I don't know if she was inspired by that because like the Wicker Man the movie came out in the 70s and kind of inspired this like neo-pagan revival, especially like in England, and it trickled over a little bit into America, but it was really like the start of like folk horror. And I think she played on that with like this pagan festival taking place in like the Celtic woods, or the Gaelic woods, I should say. Maybe they'll show Marius's backstory in like the next season. Maybe, I hope. Roland, I know you're not watching this, but Roland, if you're watching this, please include Marius's backstory. So that is something they like really changed from the books, is like we didn't get to see a lot of Marius. And like Marius was just kind of a crazy person, which like makes sense. Like he has been alone for God knows how long, just watching over Akasha. Because yeah, that is the change they made from the books. Like Marius in the show reminded me a lot of like the White Rabbit in Alice in Wonderland. Like just very like, I'm late for a very important date. Like, you know, that like sort of crazy, like overwhelming person. But like in the books, he's kind of like this savant, like Renaissance man, like painter, worldly, you know, educated. And in the show, he was very insane. Like he was a crazy person. But again, it makes sense. Like he has been alone for God knows how long. It makes sense, the change. And I'm not like opposed to it. I just hope we get to see like more of the explanation. But I can understand why they aren't, because like in the books, Marius explains like kind of Akasha's backstory, even though it's like not the real backstory. It kind of laid the foundation for the real backstory we see in Queen of the Damned. So I get why they're not doing that. Like I get they want to sort of still have this air of like mystery around Akasha, and they didn't really explain it that much. But like I think even if you haven't read the books, you kind of got the point. But yeah, we'll get into the Akasha stuff in a little bit. Also in the books, like Marius does kind of fall in love with Lestat, which like makes sense because like everyone falls in love with Lestat. Like, I mean, just look at him. Like, who wouldn't fall in love with him? But it's sort of this like platonic love. Like they never really do anything. It's just sort of like Marius grows to really care for him. Versus this where Marius like wanted nothing to do with him and it's just kind of like, here's the job, I gotta go, peace. So yeah, I am hoping Marius is like continues to be a major character in the show. I guess we'll see. And I've said this in like every single review, but I do think that is like the crux of the show. Even though this episode was phenomenal, it's just like I just really wish we had more time to like really dive in and explore these characters, because everything right now it's just very, the pacing's very like, like just zooming through the story. I don't know. Not to like critique or I would have done this differently, but it could have been cool if like each episode we like really focused on like Lestat's relationship with one character. And I guess that's kind of what they're trying to do, but yeah, I don't know. It's just like I the scenes of like Lestat and Nikki and their rise and fall and like this, it's just like I wish we had more time with it. And I think that's the biggest change they've made from the books is like the book, The Vampire Lestat is like a little bit about the music and then the rest about like his backstory and then at the very end like the concert in San Francisco. And this it's like half and half, like half backstory, half like current day. And I do think like the backstory stuff is the strongest stuff they're doing, and the current day stuff it's good, but if I have like one major critique of the season, it's that it's just like the current day stuff I do think is good, but I think could almost be like each episode could be like the beginning, like current day, bulk of the episode, like back the story, and then end of the episode, like back to current day. Um, but what do I know? I'm not the showrunner. Maybe they thought of that. I don't know. Maybe it didn't work. I don't know. But yeah, if I was in charge, that's how I would do it. But I'm not. I'm just a lonely actor, writer, YouTuber. So Lestat takes the job of watching over those who must be kept, aka Akasha and Ankle. And what I actually did think was really cool that they did was Lestat watching over Akasha and Ankle did remind me of like a lighthouse keeper. In the last episode, we saw him kill a lighthouse keeper and cause a shipwreck. But that's kind of like the job he's taking on, right? Like this figure of the lighthouse keeper, this alone man doing this job that's incredibly boring and isolating. But if he doesn't do it, if no one is watching over the lighthouse and if no one is watching over Akasha and Ankle, everyone dies. So I thought that was a cool parallel between this and the last episode. Like, him and Gabriella killing the lighthouse keeper, and then the shipwrecks, and then they kill the survivors. Um, and now Lestat is that figure of the lighthouse keeper, but is the keeper of those who must be kept. So yeah, that was a really cool detail. And I don't know if a lot of people picked up on that, but yeah, him taking on this job is him like taking over the lighthouse keeper, because if Akasha ever goes into the sun, like everyone, or well, not everyone, every vampire will die. Like she is the lifeblood of all the vampires. So if anything bad happens to her, it happens to like all the vampires. And I think they explained it in the show with like Ankle being left outside. I just feel like if you haven't read the books, it might be a little confusing. Like that detail was just kind of like passed over, not passed over. It was mentioned, but it wasn't like harped on. But I think they should have had a little bit more time to like explain that. Like why does he have to watch over Akasha? Yeah, so I'm wondering like how people who haven't read the books are feeling. Like please let me know in the comments. Like is this all just like what the heck is going on, or is it like understandable? And I'm not saying they need to dumb it down, but it is kind of like I just wonder if like anyone knows what's happening. And then again, like that is the cool thing about the show is like so many shows Netflix have this theory called second screen where they want the show on in the background while you're browsing like TikTok or Instagram. And this show you can't do that with. Like this show you have to put your phone down and watch it or you're going to be lost. Which I do appreciate. I really appreciate that in this day and age of like overstimulation and background television where every 2 pages they give you like a plot summary. I'm just wondering like how people are feeling if you haven't read the book. Go read the book also. It's good. I liked it. And I think that's the thing too, where it's like I did out of all the books I've read by Anne Rice, like The Vampire Lestat was my favorite. And, I liked Interview with the Vampire, but the show was like so good that it's kind of like that. To me, like the show version was like my version of Interview with a Vampire. And this, it's like The Vampire Lestat, the book, still kind of remains like The Vampire Lestat to me. Like the show hasn't eclipsed it, if that makes sense. And that's not to say like I'm not appreciating what they're doing with the show. I do think the writers are trying to bring theater back into television, or like a theatrical sensibility. Because in the start of television, a lot of the writers were theater writers, like they were playwrights. And that's the same with like early days of like the talkies. They didn't know what they were doing, so they brought in a lot of like New York playwrights to write for movies. And that can be seen everywhere with like the influence of vaudeville on early musicals, movie musicals, or yeah, literally taking plays and just adapting it for the screen. And that also was true with like early television. Like early television didn't really, they're still trying to figure it out. So they would bring in playwrights from New York to write for TV, because like the playwrights knew how to write characters and the format was different. And that's where we got like sitcom. With sitcom, the reason they had the audience there was because it was kind of like they were doing farces. The laughter helped the actors like with the timing and everything. And yeah, so that's kind of why they brought that tradition over from sitcoms. So a lot of early television was influenced by theater. And I do think they're bringing that back because we have lost that. Like television became its own art form and developed its own rules and sensibilities. Theater kind of fell to the wayside in like mainstream culture. Like obviously theater is still there and very important, and we all love Broadway, and Cole Skull is doing amazing things on Broadway with Oh Mary. But like straight theater plays, people don't really consider, like they don't really think about. And I think that is the cool thing about like Roland. It does feel like he's approaching this like a play. And the theater sensibility continues in so many aspects of the show. Like obviously with season 2 with the theater of the vampires, but with this, they're bringing over a lot of the sensibilities, like the practical sets, the costume design, the character design. All of this is very theatrical inspired. And thank God for that. Like, thank God they're using practical sets and not just relying on like the Netflix way of doing things where it's just like green screen, CGI blandness, and the lighting is just bland and everything looks bland. This, like the lighting, the set design, the character design, all of this is very intentional and very well thought out. So I am really appreciative of the craft that went into making this, because it could have been so easy just to make all of this like CG everything, but they took the time and the effort to like make it practical, and I love that. I loved that about the first 2 seasons. I loved that about this. And even like, okay, the eyes of the vampires, right? Like the fact that they use contacts and not like CG over it, I think is brilliant. Like it adds to the uncanniness of the vampires and it doesn't look real. So it kind of, your brain, even though they look like, even though they're people, like obviously the actors are real people, because there is an uncanniness to the eyes, subconsciously, like you put them in this place of like, these are not real. And I'm really glad they did that. I love the contacts. Like, people are like, oh, it looks cheap. And it's like, no, but that's the point. Like, it looks artificial because, like, these are not humans. These are vampires. And the eyes, are the window to the soul and all of that. But I love all of their eyes, like, after they're turned. It's so good because it looks so unnatural. And that was a major theme this episode, was the eyes, the stained glass eyes in the song. Louis saying like Regina doesn't have the same spark in her eyes that Claudia did. So continuing on this like theme of like theater sensibilities, I do also think the show needs to be rewatched. Like I watched this episode twice. Actually no, I watched this episode 3 times. And there are so many little tiny jokes and moments that like I missed the first time watching it. So I do think, yeah, like it deserves to be rewatched because there's so many little details that you kind of miss because there's so much happening in this episode, the whole season, that there are like little moments that are easy to miss or like not remember. But yeah, they had some really funny small little like one liners and quips I thought were really, really enjoyable. And that is something like that they do continue on from the theater is like all of the dialogue is very intentional and there's not like wasted dialogue. And I think that's kind of why it feels so like there's so much happening is because like they use every bit of dialogue for a purpose. Like to continue the plot forward, but also like to tell the jokes. Like there's no lines in this where it's like, oh, you could cut that. So I think that's also why this season doesn't feel like it has a lot of breathing room is because like there's so much happening in every line of dialogue. There's nothing where it's like you can kind of not pay attention to. Like you have to pay attention to like every word basically. So that is cool. Like it is cool how tight it is, but also it is like as an audience member, it can be like there's so much happening. Even like Akasha's monologue, right? Like I had to watch that like 3 times to fully understand like everything that was being said because it was like, the monologue and Marius and Lestat all arguing at the same time, and it was like I literally needed to rewatch it and like rewind a few seconds because it was like wanted to get every word of Akasha, but there's just so much happening. So yeah, I do think like the whole episode, well, the whole season really should be rewatched and is immensely rewatchable. And yeah, I think that's why like people also are struggling with the pacing because it's just like there is so much happening at all times and there's no moment that isn't important. There's no scene where it's like, oh, just cut that, like that's not necessary for the plot. Like every scene is very necessary for the plot, which is very different from like a lot of modern television. A lot of modern television kind of just has filler, and this has really no filler. Again, that's my common critique of the season is like I just wish there was more time to breathe and like things were a little bit more drawn out. But again, what do I know? Oh, and also, okay, sorry, continuing on the train of thought about theater. The other cool thing is also the acting is very theatrical. And that is not a criticism at all. I think that is one of the coolest things about the show is all of these characters are big and all of the actors are doing big things with the characters, which is different from a lot of television because a lot of television relies on, it's the movie version of acting where it's small, subtle facial details and like, little subtle things versus this. And I'm not saying the characters are broad or the acting is broad, but it's big and it's bigger than what you see on a lot of television, right? Like a lot of actors try really hard to avoid melodrama and to avoid seeming hammy. And I'm not saying these actors in The Vampire Lestat are hammy, not at all. I think they're killing it, doing amazing things with everything. But it is big. It's bigger than what you see on a lot of television. And I love that because I love these giant characters and the giant emotions and the yelling and the over the topness of it, and in a good way, not like over the top like it's too much, like over the top and like in a way that like you don't really see big characters like this in a lot of shows. Yeah, and it makes sense that a lot of them are theater actors because in theater you do have to act for the back row. You do go bigger than you would on camera because like the camera captures every little subtle detail and you can't go as big as you would in a stage play. And I think all the actors are finding like a happy medium of like going big without it being too much. And it is cool that like Sheila, for example, is like a Broadway or West End legend. And that translated. Like she did so good with Akasha. Oh my God. She was phenomenal as Akasha. But it was like, it was big. And she took a swing. And I really love that. And I really appreciate that. And that's like the training that theater gives you that a lot of actors in television just don't have. A lot of actors would not be able to do any of these roles because it's so specific, but it also has to be bigger than you would go in a normal television show. Yeah, but oh my god, Sheila was phenomenal as Akasha. Oh my god, that monologue at the end. That was another thing too that I wanted to bring up, and a few people brought it up on Twitter, but I also clocked this. When she says I am the answer," that to me felt like a reference to Angels in America, one of my favorite plays I've ever had the fortune of reading and performing in an acting class. Yeah, in an acting class I played prior, and it was like my favorite role I've ever done. Um, but yeah, so the I am the answer. It did remind me of Angels in America because all the angels say like 5 times or 6 times or however, depending on the angel. That was another way they like kind of bring the theater into television, and that was such a great detail. Yeah, everything with Akasha they nailed, absolutely nailed. Oh my god, it was so good. Sheila is phenomenal. I'm so excited to see more of her. Just killing Akasha. Also, the oh my god, the character design too was incredible. The way the costumers were to make made all of the clothes look like stone, like literal actual stone. That was not stone. Were not statues. Those were literally the actors in like costume, but it looked like stone. Oh my god, my mind was just blown when I found out that detail. Like it wasn't a statue. Those were like actual clothes that they painted to look like stone. Such a good detail. And again, the set design, like the fact that they take so much care in the set design and the costume design and all of that instead of relying on CG, just like mwah, chef's kiss. So good. I'm so glad Roland is show running this and doing, making it so all these like phenomenal artists get to show off their craft. It's a thing a lot of people don't think about, but like costume design and set design and all of that is so important, and a lot of modern television just ignores, not ignores it. Like the costumers always and the set designers and the CG artists, everyone does their job very well most of the time. This level of care and craft, just there isn't an emphasis on it in a lot of modern television shows. So, okay, the theme of the review is talking about the theater, but I also do love how the writers also aren't afraid to make fun of the theater. Like they're kind of making fun of it with fake Madeline and fake Claudia in the dinner together with Louis. Yeah, the fake Madeline was so funny. Well, not funny. It was very uncomfortable, but also like the details were funny. The overdone French accent and her bringing off Broadway was great. Like, yeah, she would be a touring actress, and oh my god, yeah, she would play Satine in the touring version of Moulin Rouge. Like, so funny, such a good detail. That one was for the theater girlies. Like, if you know, you know. Fake Claudia and fake Madeline are basically like performing an improv scene for Louis. So that was funny. It's sort of a meta reference to like actors and how actors are. Believe me, I know. But also at the same time, like it does make sense why Louis was so like disgusted when fake Claudia and fake Madeline started kissing. Like, oh my god, yeah, that I would be incredibly disturbed too if I was Louis. And it makes sense like why Regina thought that's where this was going. Like to Regina, this all must just seem insane, right? Like even reading the book, it's still like she doesn't know the depth of his grief. And of course she would think like it's some weird psychosexual fantasy he has that she wants to play out for him because she thinks he'll like that. But really, it's like Louis wants Claudia back. That's what it is. But I don't think Regina like gets that fully. I don't think she gets how much despair is in Louis. And so yeah, like her and Madeline, fake Madeline, making out. Like oh god, that was very uncomfortable. Regina must just be like, what the hell is this? Like, this is so weird. Like, can you imagine just like working at a diner and then all of a sudden this like rich vampire of 300 years comes in, asks you to play his dead daughter. Like, yeah, so it makes sense, like, why she went sexual with it, because, like, I would also assume, like, this is some weird sexual thing. Yeah, for Louis, it's not. And that's why he looked so disgusted and so, like, ugh. And I do think that's the thing, too, about Louis's relationship with Claudia versus Lestat. I think Lestat always saw Claudia as an adult versus Louis, who I think always saw Claudia like as a child. Even at the end, I still think he viewed her as a child because again, she had a child's body, but like the brain of an adult. Versus Lestat, I think Lestat always knew she was an adult, like in treated her as such. He didn't treat her well, like obviously, but he treated her not an equal, but like he was harsher on her than he would have been, I think, on like an actual child. And yeah, so it is like I do think like Louis just till the end, like always just viewed her as a child. And I think that's sort of the crux of like the issue between him and Lestat is like Lestat I don't think had any pretenses of Claudia versus Louis loved her deeply, but also like never treated her like an adult. Her and fake Madeline making out, it makes so much sense. Like, yeah, Louis, of course you're gonna have a mental breakdown over this. Like, don't do this. Stop this. Like, stop this right now. Like, yeah, yeah, this would make anyone have a nervous breakdown. Like, this is not a good idea. Like, thank God you called in the stat to like kind of put an end to it because like this is not good. Also, another detail I did notice was Regina's dress is yellow, like Claudia's last dress. So Regina not only was wearing a yellow dress like in the dinner scene, but at the diner her uniform is yellow, much like Claudia's final dress. Okay, what else? I love that they referenced Florence in the Machine. The Florence Welsh wanting the vampire Lestat to open for her. Great detail. Apparently, Florence Welch is like a huge, huge fan of Interview with a Vampire. And there were rumors that she was like at some of the scenes just like as an extra in the Theatre de Vampire. I love that. I love that she's a fan of the show. I love her so much. This is a tangent, but oh my god, I love Florence and the Machine. She's just been like a consistent presence in my life since like 2008. I think she's an incredible artist. Her albums are amazing. If you haven't listened to Everybody Scream, go stream the album right now. It is phenomenal. Dance Fever is like one of my favorite albums of all time. Yeah, Florence always to me just seemed more like a goddess than a person. But I'm being gay and standing. But yeah, no, it is cool that like they reference her. Bring on Florence. Like I just have her as a side character. That would be so fun. I also do love that we're still seeing Nikki. Like everything in these last few episodes with like Nikki, drawing on blood in the mirror, and this episode where he's like messing up the count. Yeah, I'm really glad Nikki is still there. Do I wish we could see more of him? Yes, I love Nikki. I really, really want to see more of him. And I wanted to see more of their relationship. Yeah, I'm glad he's still there. And it is interesting that, like, Lestat is being haunted by all of these figures, much like Louis being haunted by Lestat in season two. I think one of the big themes of the show is how, even though, like, they all live forever, they still can't escape death, right? Like, even though they're immortal, death still finds a way to haunt them. They're haunted by the people they've lost or have died in their presence. Like they're not immune from the grief that comes with death, which is so ironic because they cause so much death. Even though they live forever, they can't escape the shadow of death. It's almost like the death is heightened because they have so long to live with it. Like all the characters are haunted. Like Louis is haunted by Claudia and formerly Lestat. Lestat is haunted by Nikki, by, well, really everyone in his life he's haunted by. Let's talk about Armand. um, oh my god, that ending. I was so gagged the first time I saw it. Like my jaw was literally on the floor. When Larry walked in front of the train, I was like, no, he didn't. He did not. Oh my god. Like Armand. God damn it. I was rooting for you. I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. I thought Armand turned over a new leaf, but there it was, the same old Armand up to his tricks. Like I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. Larry? Like, no. Again, I want to play Arms of the Angels by Sarah Bareilles. Not Larry. Ugh, I'm so sad. Don't. Not Larry. Like, Christine was bad enough, but now Larry, he's gone too. Ugh, I loved Larry. We didn't get to see Larry and Lestat make out. Like, I wanted to. God damn it, Armand. Oh, Armand. Because like it's so funny because like Armand spent the last episode like apologizing for everything and like trying to make amends, and then this episode, nope, old Armand. But that is one of the themes of the show. Well, the series in general is like people never change. Like they don't. They never change. They are who they are. Vampiricism just like brings that out. Yeah, so it's the same old Armand. Armand is the snake. I've always said that. I still believe that. And also, this episode, we found out that Armand was following Daniel around for basically Daniel's entire life. He said, like, he would watch him while he slept, like Edward in Twilight. But also, oh my God, can you imagine, like, just being asleep and then all of a sudden there's Armand at the foot of your bed? Like, oh God, oh, horror movie. Oh my god, that's a terrifying thought. Just those orange eyes like staring at you at the foot of your bed. Oh god. No wonder Daniel turned to drugs. Like Armand's just like a sleep paralysis demon. Ugh, Armand. And okay, the scenes with Daniel and Armand, loving. I'm not loving. I think it's because like Armand is like playing up the romance while Daniel is like angsty. I don't know. It's not. I'm not getting like now kiss from this. You know what I mean? Like it's just very like okay. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, it's just a little. I don't know. I'm not feeling the chemistry. I'll just say that I'm not feeling the chemistry. Okay, and then my last thought is like I am really enjoying seeing like this version of Lestat versus like Louis' version of Lestat in season 1 and 2. Yeah, that has been a really interesting transition of the character of like the real quote unquote Lestat versus like how Louis saw him. Because like, Louis saw him as more villainous and this is more you see where he's coming from. So I'm liking that aspect of the show. And again, I'm liking like 90% of the show. I'm liking the acting. I'm liking the backstories. I'm liking the character design, the set design. I'm liking a lot of it. And I really loved this episode. Again, like Akasha was such a standout. And I'm so excited to see like what they do with her. So the questions I have going into next episode are, is Lestat going to feel guilty about Larry's death? Like, is he going to blame himself? Is Larry going to haunt him like Nikki does? Like, is he going to be like, oh, I told him, I was so hard on him in the music making process that he, himself. Like, is that going to cause Lestat's mental breakdown? We'll see. I'm also wondering, is the band going to blame Lestat? Which is awkward because, like, they just turned. So yeah. Oh, also the turning of the band, I thought, love it. Cool. Love it. Absolutely love it. The scene where they're screaming like make more, make more, make more was fun. Um yeah, that was really good detail. I liked that part a lot. So will Larry show up as a muse? Will the band blame Lestat? I guess we'll have to watch the next episode to find out. Thank you for watching this. My Instagram will be linked down below. Please like and subscribe. I could really use it right now. And yeah, what did you think of the episode? Let me know down in the comments. And finally, all the other episodes I've reviewed will be down below as well. And cheers.